Many people say that the word separation church and state means that you can't talk about God in school, you can't mention religion, you can't even mention Jesus, you can't mention your religion, and you can't push your religion on anyone else. You can't wear religious shirts, you can't wear crosses or jewelry or anything like that. But that's not actually what the words church and separation of church and state means. And in fact, it means quite the opposite. One girl once told me in school, she's like, you can't mention God in school. And I said, why? You do it all the time. She's like, no, I don't. And I said, yeah, you do. Every day, in fact. All across the country, we say the Pledge of Allegiance. We say one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. She's like, huh, you're right. I never thought about that before. And in fact, it's true, we do. We mention God every single day in school, even though people say you can't mention God in school. So what do the words separation of church and state actually mean? It actually means that you can have your religion and the government can't do anything to take that away. The government, because we have religious freedom, the very First Amendment, right? The very First Amendment says we have religious freedom. We have the freedom of religious expression too. So we can talk about God, we can mention Jesus, we can mention our religion. Go into your school. There's Bible clubs in a lot of public schools. Go into your library. There's books on Jesus and Buddha and other religious figures. We talk about them in history classes. We do it all the time. And in fact, nobody can take that away from us because of the separation of church and state. See, that was started in actually 1801 by the Danbury Baptists. That was the first time that phrase was ever used, ever, in history. And it was used because the Danbury Baptists had heard a rumor that Jefferson and the rest of the United States was actually going to make the Congregationalists the national religion of the United States. And so he wrote a letter to Jefferson and said, hey, you can't do that. What's going on? I heard a rumor that this might be true. And Jefferson wrote the Baptists back a letter and said, don't worry, we have erected a wall between this church and state. And so we can't force our religion on you. We can't make a unified countrywide religion. And we can't strip you of your religion, so don't worry. See, you guys remember we came from England, right? Where King Henry VIII made everybody part of the Church of England. Everyone had to be Anglican. And in fact, thousands of priests and nuns were killed, and so many churches were confiscated or burned to the ground. I mean, anyone who wasn't the Church of England paid dearly, especially Catholics. And so when we moved to the United States, we said, that's not going to be the case anymore. We said, nobody can make you be part of a state religion. And that is why the separation of church and state exists. It's actually to prevent the state from taking us over. It's actually to prevent the state and the government of the United States from saying you have to be a certain religion and letting them force their beliefs on us. So it actually has the total opposite effect of what everyone's trying to make it mean. People say you can't wear religious shirts at school. Yes, you can. And you can have religious conversations and you can talk about God. I do it all the time. The thing is, I can't force my beliefs on anyone else. If someone says, I'm an atheist and you can't change my mind, I said, no, you're right, I can't. We all have freedom of belief. We have freedom of religion. I can't force my beliefs on you, but we can talk about it. We can talk about it. This was the case until 1947, almost 150 years. In 1947, that was the first time that the government actually used the word separation of church and state, and they just used those words. They pulled them out of the context of the letter Jefferson actually used to defend religion, and they used it to bash religion over 150 years later, and that's what it's come to mean today, but it's wrong. It's completely wrong. The separation of church and state actually protects us. So remember that next time you want to have a religious conversation, someone tells you you can't mention God in school, say we do it all the time. And we're allowed